As a startup company, right, you're always going to be tinkering to an extent, right, and trying to figure out that next opportunity and, trying different stuff, right? You have to continue growing. And so I think that, from that side of it, you can't be married to an idea, right, where it's like, man, I'm just super passionate and love this idea, which is great. You have to have that conviction, but you really have to look at the data, right? Is it working?
In part one of my conversation with Brandon O'Halloran, the CEO of ReplyBuy, he discussed his efforts to develop a personalized messaging system to help companies quickly and easily complete sales. In this second part of our conversation, he discusses some of the strategic decisions he's made to grow his company, including forming key partnerships and making sure your passions are lining up with reality. And as a first-time CEO, he offers some important advice for anyone aspiring to follow in his footsteps. Brandon, I'm really fascinated to continue our conversation now and hear how have you been innovating and keep growing? Because you've been on an interesting journey. You've been with the company from the near early days, and now you're the CEO. And to have seen it grow over the years, I'm sure you've experienced a few hiccups, problems that you had to overcome. Can you share any insights that you've learned that another entrepreneur or leader can glean from you?
For sure, yeah. There's been countless times of hard lessons learned. I think one of the biggest ones that sticks out to me is just failing fast, right? Like as a startup company, right? You're always going to be tinkering to an extent, right, and trying to figure out that next opportunity and trying different stuff, right? You have to continue growing. And so I think that from that side of it, you can't be married to an idea, right? Where it's like, man, I'm just super passionate and love this idea, which is great. You have to have that conviction, but you really have to look at the data, right? Is it working? And you have to have certain checkpoints where, okay, like let's put ourselves on a timeline. What do we need to accomplish in the next 2 weeks, in the next month, in the next 3 months to really prove we're on the right track and this is a good path to continue going down and investing in. And usually that comes down to, where you're pouring marketing resources, development, right? Obviously from a product standpoint. So that certainly stood out to me. I think that, I've been fortunate in terms of being able to surround myself with some great mentors and people that have scaled businesses and kind of seen the battles before you. So that's something that, is invaluable. And I would certainly encourage everyone to try and get a good, strong team of mentors and advisors around you who can help you avoid some pitfalls maybe they saw along the way.
Can you think of any tactical things that you instituted early on or as you've been progressing that helped you get the first initial couple clients or start to be able to scale to get to the 150 clients that you have now today using your platform? What kind of tactical things did you implement that you saw, wow, actually, this was good?
For sure. Yeah. I mean, early days, there was a lot of just being scrappy, right? And leveraging relationships, which I think is probably the case with a lot of startups, right? Is being scrappy, working incredibly hard, right? And driving those conversations. I think one thing that we've found has been invaluable is creating strategic partnerships and unlocking ecosystems for us. So in the sense of, okay, we want to work with all sports and entertainment, right? Well, we partnered with Ticketmaster, which unlocks their ecosystem. And so when you go try and sell to them now, you're a Ticketmaster partner versus just somebody off the street, right? And so all of a sudden your message stands out, in just a lot more differentiated way. And sometimes it's a qualified way where they won't even consider you, right? If you're not a partner in that sense.
What's the business model today and how has it changed over the years?
Yeah, so, it started really as a rev share type model, right? We take a portion of each transaction, right, that goes through the system. Which was, how it started, a little bit lower margin, when you think about transactional based businesses a lot of times. And so, it was a great way for us to really be our beachhead market, prove the technology, gain a lot of credibility. But we knew that, hey, we're going to have to innovate and, introduce something else in a different business model. It's a little bit higher margin, predictable recurring revenue. And so, yeah, about 16 months ago, we introduced SaaS-based revenue, which, we have had tremendous growth on, and it's very high margin, and it's widened the audience we could sell to pretty drastically as well. So it's been a tremendous shift for us. Like our gross profit, for example, last year was up 177% year over year, which is really directly attributable to, introducing a more profitable business model, right, with higher margins. So, and predictability and recurring revenue is key. For us, it was very seasonal in the early going, because in the fall through the spring, when all the, big sports are going on, it was very good for us, right? Summer is a little quieter. So having recurring predictable revenue has been key.
Looking forward, what do you see as some of the major hurdles you're going to need to overcome to be able to achieve the vision that you set?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think, like a lot of startups, right? I mean, just your kind of standard resource in terms of people and cash, right? To be able to grow kind of in the speed at which you want, right? We know that there's an open window right now, right? Like, you see a lot of startups that talk about that window of opportunity you have. It's open right now, right, for us. And so we're trying to go as fast as we can. We're still a small team, and make as much traction. I think we take pride in the fact that we've been able to accomplish a lot with a little, in terms of resources, team, and cash, and that side of it. But I think that, those are kind of two obvious ones.
How big is your team right now?
Yeah, so we have 5 full-time, and then we have two people that work on more of a consultant type basis, one on biz dev, one on the engineering side. So we're still small group, small but mighty.
Yeah, you're accomplishing a lot with such a small team. That's awesome. For you, how are you growing and innovating? Because this is a new role for you. Have you ever been a CEO before?
No, first time CEO.
All right. So has there been any major insights or learnings that you've had over the past year that you've been CEO here, and anything that you would share with someone else who maybe they've entered a similar role?
Yeah, I think, for a lot of, CEOs, I mean, like, I think you have to read a lot, right? And you have to talk to people that have been there, right? So, I try and put, again, good people around me who've been in those shoes and can, kind of point you in the right direction, and then just read a lot, right? To try and make sure you're as informed as possible. But I think that from my perspective, I know what my strengths and weaknesses are, right? So people, sales, partnerships, marketing, right? That's right in my wheelhouse, right? Areas that, I knew that, I needed support, right? Were more like legal, financial, stuff like that, where it's like, okay, enough to be dangerous, right? You have to have a base framework, obviously, to have good understanding of kind of the core principles, but you got to put good people around you that can steer you in the right direction and give advice, right? Based on certain situations. And so that's really what I've focused on, is trying to put a great team around me in all of those areas. I think the other big piece is learning to let people do their job and not do it all, try and do it all yourself, which is like, kind of, I think, nature of people running companies, and certainly small companies. And so trusting other people and delegating, and just, direction, and you have ownership of this. And, we give people a lot of autonomy. So that's been something that has been a continuous, I guess, growth area for me, in terms of just giving direction and giving them the tools that they need to succeed, and letting them kind of own, their segment of the business.
You mentioned reading. You do a lot of reading. Is there any books that you have read in the last little while that stand out to you that you would share?
Yeah. I mean, I'm reading a book called Remote: Office Not Required by Jason Fried. So, we're a fully remote company. It's obviously like everybody is pretty much remote right now for the most part with COVID-19. And so I think that trying to understand, the best ways to scale an organization in that fashion, still keep up culture, which I think is the hardest part, right? Just ensuring that you still are having that relationship, aspect of it. There's a ton of benefits still to processes. Obviously, you wipe out the commutes and the time and all that, right? Which I think everybody likes, but there's positives and negatives, to like with everything. But I do think that, the shift, towards remote is not a temporary thing, right? It was already starting that shift even before, this pandemic. I think it's going to keep pushing more and more, where you're going to see, businesses try and recruit, nationally and internationally, right? There's no sense in saying, just because we're in Scottsdale or Phoenix, right, that we only have to recruit in this local market, right? The best person for us, one of our, both of our biz dev guys, one's in San Francisco and one's in New Jersey, right? And there's no sense that I have to uproot their families, move them here and that type of thing. And so I think that it allows you to find the best people, and it also gives people the, ability to live where they want. I mean, a lot of these cities you're seeing, like with San Francisco in particular, the price of housing and just cost of living there has just gotten to a crazy level, right? And so it's hard to withstand, and especially for a startup company. So trying to be cognizant of challenges people are facing on that side. I'm definitely a believer in a lot of the benefits, but want to continue to refine that process.
Gotcha. I'm going to end with one more question. Looking forward overall, what kind of tech innovation do you predict we'll see in the near term, 1 year, and long term in 10 years?
I think that from a commerce side, I would say that I think you're going to see more and more people being comfortable making purchases off platform, right? So wherever the customer is. And that's really where, again, that's where my mind goes with conversational commerce. And I think the advantage we have, you're seeing, more people now than ever, especially with this pandemic, be comfortable transacting on directly, say, on a restaurant's website, right? Where people have never done that before, ever, in their lives, have they went to a restaurant's website and ordered to-go food, right? Or, delivery, that type of stuff. So, we certainly believe in messaging and kind of meeting the customer where they are, but I think you're going to see a continued, and they made this more of a trend, I guess, than an innovation, but that's what comes to mind in terms of people continuing to trend, obviously, towards e-commerce and being more and more comfortable giving their credit card and purchasing in more non-traditional platforms. From that perspective, 10 years from now, I'll be pretty surprised if everybody's not rolling around in autonomous cars, and so I'm a big fan of Elon Musk and what they're pushing forward there with Tesla and everything. So I think that I'm a fan of that side of innovation. Obviously, there's a lot of things to go through with the government, regulation, that type of thing, but seems to be inevitable. So I'll go with that one for the 10-year.
Have you seen a company using AI, machine learning, or other technology to transform the way we live, work, and do business? Go to uptechreport.com and let us know.